Exposed, 8 spine-chilling tales of haunted villages and ranches revealed by Mexican Gian de Parentias. Clara hurried home, her heart racing. The dim streetlights flickered like dying stars, casting eerie shadows that clung to her. Crestwood feels wrong, she thought, as she quickened her pace. The stories her abuela told haunted her mind, whispers of specters lurking in the alleys, thirsty for fear, preying on the weak. Tonight, those tales felt all too real. There was something about the silence, an unnatural stillness that weighed heavily on her. As she neared her front door, the familiar creak of old wood sent chills up her spine. Inside, her mother sat in a faded chair, her once bright eyes clouded with worry and something darker. Just yesterday, Clara had heard her mumbling in strange cadences, words that painted images of dread in her mind. Could it be? She whispered to herself. Could the things Abuela warned about be creeping into our lives? She shook off that thought. Exhaustion and fear twisted into a knot in her stomach. Yet, when the whispers began again, hushed voices snaking through the walls, Clara's skin prickled. She couldn't tell if it was the building tension or just the air around her growing stale. It's just my imagination, she whispered, trying to convince herself. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Suddenly, a loud rap echoed through the silence. Clara gasped, her blood turning to ice. Who could that be at this hour? Her neighbors barely even said hello anymore. She approached the window. Shadows flitted past, figures moving just beyond her perception, and her heart thundered. The air thickened as dread seeped into her bones. Mom! Clara called, but her voice trembled. The only response was a low, guttural hum creeping from her mother's lips. It sounded like something straight from one of Abuela's tales, and it filled the room with a chill that made her teeth chatter. Where was her comfort? Was it only the illusion that kept her safe? Clara, a voice croaked from beyond the door, dripping with familiarity but layered in something twisted. It wasn't her mother or her abuela, this was different. The voice was old, ancient, and it sent a wave of primal terror spiraling through her. With clammy hands gripping the doorknob, she hesitated. What waits for me? Is it real? Or just another shadow of fear? The voice called again, deeper this time. Open the door, Clara. Every heartbeat pounded in her ears. The voice knew her name. Was it feeding off her fear? Taking root in the dark corners of her mind? Igniting false hope one moment before plunging her into despair the next. She was teetering on the brink of knowledge too frightening to comprehend. Swallowing hard, she gripped the knob tighter. Just a quick peek, she told herself, just to see what was out there. But perhaps some doors should never be opened, and she could already sense the icy fingers of a lurking malevolence at her back. With one deep breath, she slowly turned the knob, the metal cold and uninviting, and pried the door open. The door creaked open, revealing nothing but darkness swallowing all light like a hungry beast. Clara's heart raced as she scanned the night, dread wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. She half expected figures to jump from the shadows, but instead, only silence greeted her. The voice had fallen quiet, leaving a tense stillness that echoed in the pit of her stomach. Hello? She ventured, her voice barely above a whisper, straining to pierce the void. No response. Suddenly, an icy breeze swept past her, sending a shiver down her spine. It carried with it whispers soft, malicious. They curled around her thoughts, threading through her mind, making her question her surroundings. Is this really happening? She thought, fear creeping back. The night felt alive, sentient, even a flicker of movement caught her eye. Shadows danced just beyond the threshold, weaving in and out of focus, leaving her frozen in place. "Close the door, Clara," an instinctual voice chimed inside her head, but her body wouldn't obey. Then, her mother's earlier murmurs returned, rising in fervor, as if something was awakening within the darkened room. "Mama?" Clara called, panic lacing her tone. She took a tentative step outside, the cool night air wrapping around her like an unwelcome embrace. "Clara." The voice returned, now insistent, coaxing her forward. She followed it, stepping further onto her stoop, peering into the abyss of shadows that seemed to twist and lurch as if alive. The street was empty, but the night pressed against her, heavy and thick like fog. "Why are you doing this?" She breathed into the night, her voice trembling. Just then, from the corner of her eye, she caught sight of something or someone lurking at the edge of her neighbor's yard. A figure too familiar, yet utterly wrong. It was a silhouette of someone she knew, but the posture was all wrong, unnaturally bent, and the head hung too low. "Mom!" Clara yelled, instinct driving her back inside, pulling the door shut behind her. Her breath came in rapid bursts, scraping her throat. What was happening? She turned to her mother, searching for reassurance, but all she found was the cold stare of fear returning from the depths of her eyes. "Clara," her mother's voice transformed, each syllable laced with shadows that contorted her face. "Let it in. It needs you." "What are you saying?" Clara's pulse thundered. Those weren't the words of her mother. That was something darker. No, Clara shook her head, backing away, feelings of betrayal mixing with fear, growing roots in her gut. But the whispers clawed at the air between them, insistent and demanding. Footsteps echoed outside, slow, deliberate. Clara's heart raced. "Stay back." But in her heart, a chilling realization pierced through the haze. What if her mother was no longer herself? What if that thing outside was not just a shadow? Something inside Clara broke, a suffocating realization that whatever was at their door was already entwined with the fabric of their lives. The door rattled, one ominous knock too loud to ignore. The world felt limited to that singular moment of suspense. Her muscles tensed, every instinct screamed at her to flee, but there was nowhere to run. What had she opened? "Open the door, Clara," the voice crooned again, too close now. And within her, a desperate thought took root. But the truth was terrifying. What if, when she opened the door, she lost everything? As she braced herself against the wooden frame, she could only think of the stories her abuela told, profound warnings that echoed louder in her mind. What if this was just the beginning of their reckoning? The next knock came, punctuated with urgency as the darkness pressed in. "Let me in." The air around Clara crackled with a haunting energy. And she was left wondering how far would she go to protect her reality? If she let it in, what would she become? The air thickened with dread as Clara stood there, her back pressed against the door. The shadows on the other side shifted, almost tumbling over one another as if desperate to break into her world. Her breath came in shallow gasps, and the echoes of her mother's voice twisted through the darkness, spinning her focus like leaves in a storm. "Clara, it's cold out here. Let me in." With every word, the voice morphed, losing its softness, becoming more demanding. The calm facade was slipping. Just beyond her door was the fabric of her greatest nightmare, and that chilling name hung in the stillness like a death sentence. "Mom." Fingers trembling, she fumbled for the doorknob, heat from her palm contrasting the cold metal that nearly burned her skin. "What do you want?" She whispered, but even to her, it sounded small, defenseless. A low growl emerged from the other side, a sound far too guttural to belong to any human form. "I want what's mine, I need you." That last word sent an electric shock through Clara's spine, igniting memories of her childhood, trapped stories filled with woe and warning. Tales steeped in shadows that her abuela told beside flickering candles, the dangers of what lurked in the dark, waiting for an invitation. "Leave us alone!" she shouted, but it escaped her trembling lips weakly. The growl padded across her skin, creeping back into the recesses of her mind where fears lay buried. And then suddenly, it was silent. Too silent. Clara glanced over at her mother, whose face had twisted grotesquely, reflecting a struggle between the woman she knew and something much darker. "Clara, help me." That plea shattered her heart, but it was laced with something, a sinister tinge of desire woven through desperation. It made her stomach churn. The door rattled harder. An insistent force pounded against the wood, a rhythm that mirrored her rapid heartbeats. Each thud echoed louder, a countdown to a desperate choice. "Stop!" she screamed, "just go away." The whispers didn't stop. They grew, filling the air with ethereal promises that wormed their way into her ears. They told her that all would be well if only the door opened, if only she let the night embrace them. Clara pressed her head against the cool surface of the door, squeezing her eyes shut, trying to block out the chaos. This isn't real. Just a bad dream. When she opened them again, the room had changed. Shadows now seemed to stretch beyond the fabric of the walls, creeping closer as they clutched at the corners of her vision. The air turned icy, and a sense of claustrophobia filled her lungs. It was as if the very darkness around her was sucking the light from her thoughts. "Let me in, Clara." That voice rang with hollow urgency, now mingling the softness of her mother with an echo that sent her staggering backwards. The floor creaked beneath her weight, the wood groaning as if it shared her fear, urging her to flee. But what could she do? Where could she go? "Mom." It came out as a strangled cry, a mere whisper of the little girl she once was. "Clara." The name rose to an edged scream, raw and full of horrible need. "I'm begging you." The walls quaked with the pressure of the moment. Clara's mind raced, a torrent of thoughts battling for survival. What if her mother was gone? What if that thing outside had taken her? At that moment, she felt a rush of clarity. She turned towards the window, desperate to find a way out. The shadow outside twisted, elongating, almost grinning. Panic hit her like a wave. Could she escape it? Or would she risk confronting whatever was lurking in the darkness behind the door? The darkness was beckoning, and with it came a single horrifying question. In the frenzy of survival, could she still trust her own mother? Just then, the door started to splinter. What would break first, the door or her resolve? The door creaked like an old, forlorn spirit, splinters erupting like brittle teeth, but Clara felt an overpowering instinct to stay put. The shadows nudged closer, wrapping around her like thick, suffocating fog. Every thump of the door echoed through her bones. "Mom." It was barely a breath. Each heartbeat tautened with the weight of the world outside, each second stretching like taffy. "Help me." The voice urged again, blending her mother's cadence with something vile. Clara pressed her fingers hard against her temples, willing herself to think straight. But deep down, panic pulsed, erasing clarity. She took a quick look towards the window. It framed a night of swirling darkness, but even that felt safer than what lay behind the door. Adrenaline shot through her like lightning, forcing an instinctive decision. "No. You're not my mother." The words fought their way out, but they felt weak against the pounding insistence. The shadows wavered, as if taken aback by her defiance. Clara, the desperation stirred, scraping against her insides, begging. "You know me. I love you." The memories surged, unbidden. Laughter in the kitchen, warm hugs, bedtime stories. But now, those memories twisted, warped by the nightmare that flickered beyond the wood. "You're not her." Clara's voice cracked. Was that courage or foolhardiness? As if in reaction, the door took on a violent life of its own. It screamed against the frame, splintering deeper, letting the hungry darkness seep into her sanctuary like a flood. She stumbled back, colliding with the wall, her skin prickling with terror. Outside, the echo of her mother's voice merged with an ungodly growl, weaving into a sick melody. "I will take you from this place, Clara, forever." She pressed her back harder against the wall, feeling its chilled bricks, her heart racing. There had to be something she could do. In that moment, a flicker of resolve burned through the haze of fright. She wouldn't cower. Not again. Desperately, she turned toward the window, her hands trembling as she fumbled to slide it open. Cold air rushed in, cutting her skin like 1,000 tiny knives. She peered outside. What could she see? The street below lay shrouded in darkness. The flickering street lamp barely cast a glow, like a dying candle amidst the shadows. Her senses screamed danger, but panic was a tyrant ruling her thoughts. Just then, breaking through the air, another voice erupted from the depths. A guttural, resonating laugh that echoed ominously, capturing Clara's attention. "She can't save you, Clara, you're meant for me." Her pulse quickened, a frantic beat in her ears. What was this thing? As she willed herself to leap through the window, her heart sank. The door was almost splintered in half. She could see the murky darkness bending and writhing, almost human. "Help me!" her mother cried again, but Clara couldn't tell which was which now. Which cries were of love and which were laced with lurking evil. Suddenly, the door burst apart with a violent explosion of splinters and dark smoke. Clara recoiled, instinctively throwing up her arms as shadowy tendrils lunged towards her. Time froze as the twisted silhouette lingered just beyond the threshold, hunger dancing in its eyes. Thoughts thundered in her narrow escape, racing and crashing like waves against jagged rocks. Do I run? Do I fight? What if that's really her? And in that moment of brutal choice, she remembered a story her abuela once shared by candlelight, a tale of sacrifices and shadows, a truth about the monsters that wore familiar faces. With a single, petrifying thought standing at the forefront of her mind, did she have the strength to confront the horror waiting to claim her? Clara took a step backward, the weight of her family history crashing down, with new terror unfolding. What price would she pay to determine the truth hidden in the darkness? The shadow twisted, wild and anguished, its presence commanding the room. Clara's breath quickened as the shape moved, fluid yet jagged, like smoke struggling for form. A gnawing sensation clawed at her gut, demanding she flee or fight, but her body felt paralyzed. "Help me, Clara." The voice morphed again, a blend of her mother's sweet tones with something horrifically chilling. She wasn't just deserting a loved one, she was battling her very own memories. "You know who I am, stay back," Clara shouted, her voice trembling yet fierce. It was a futile plea, the urge to run clawing up her throat. The creature reeked of despair, of lost dreams, suffocating everything it touched. The dark figure lunged forward, tendrils revealing glimmering teeth amidst the formlessness. Clara barely dodged, diving to the side as they slashed through the air where she stood moments before. She hit the ground hard, breath escaping her in painful gasps. The world tipped sideways, her vision swirling in chaos. Still, a spark ignited in her mind. She had to reach the kitchen. Maybe the old stories were right, something there could help. Nothing felt safe, but anything was better than surrendering to this darkness. She scrambled to her feet pounding against the wooden floor, each step echoing in the suffocating silence. Behind her, the creature roared, a churning growl that vibrated the very walls. "You cannot escape." Clara dashed into the kitchen, frantically searching for anything that could possibly aid her. The room was a twisted version of her childhood, familiar yet warped. Tables and chairs seemed to stretch infinitely like a distorted funhouse. Her eyes darted to the small porcelain figure of a saint near the sink, a childhood token. Abuela always said it carried protection. Without the luxury of time or hesitation, Clara snatched it up, hoping it would ward off the looming doom. Outside, the night howled, swirling winds pressing against the windows like restless spirits. Dark wisps cloaked the corners, reaching for her like spectral fingers. She gripped the tiny statue, closing her eyes and whispering the prayers her abuela had taught her. "Please, help me, prayers won't save you." The growl sent tremors through her bones. The darkness clawed at her, pulling the air solid around her. Clara opened her eyes. She saw the tendrils wrapping tighter around the doorframe like the ghosts of her fears come to life. The porcelain slipped slightly in her sweaty palm. "No!" she gasped, locking her grip tighter. The moment trembled at its precipice, as the creature lunged again, but this time, she raised the saint high, its surface gleaming against the darkness. "In the name of my family, in the name of love, I cast you out." The shadow paused, retreating just a breath. A glint of recognition crossed its features, or was it rage? Not giving it time to recover, Clara surged forward, a fierce determination coursing through her veins. The moment felt surreal, a terrible crescendo of raw anger and need. Yet, just as she stepped closer, the darkness released an ear-piercing shriek that shattered the silence and her resolve alike. It dissolved into a cyclone, lifting her into the air. Was this her end? Her heart plummeted, thoughts spiraling into nothingness. Then, another figure emerged, this time marked by a soft light, a flicker of hope amidst despair. Clara. It was her mother, looking both familiar and alien, encircled by the tempest. Do not give in. Fight. Mom. The voice felt like a lifeline. But confusion gripped her heart. What was reality? The moment hung, stretched tight like a winding coil, and Clara could only wonder what would happen if she granted faith to one familiar face instead of saving herself. As the storm howled and both shadows and light battled fiercely around her, Clara's grip slackened, caught in the eye of calamity. Which mother would she choose to believe in? Clara's heart thundered in her chest as the ghostly figure of her mother glowed dimly amidst the whirlwind of darkness. The conflicting emotions twisted in her throat. Love waged war against suspicion. Which voice was real? As doubt seeped in, the dark entity growled, a sound like splintering wood, each snarl a reminder of its power. Clara. Her mother's voice pierced through the chaos, tremulous yet fierce. You must choose. Trust me. Trust the one who left me. Clara breathed, clenching the porcelain figure tighter. The flickering light cast distorted shadows across the kitchen, morphing the comforting space into a nightmare tapestry. The shadows lunged forward, tendrils reaching for Clara's ankles like greedy roots. With a surge of instinct, she stumbled backward, nearly losing her balance. It wanted to drag her into its depths. Fear coursed through her like ice water, leaving her gasping. No. I'm not afraid. Clara shouted, desperation igniting her resolve. The porcelain saint felt warm against her palm, a small bastion against the encroaching dread. I won't lose you again. The creature hesitated, coiling its tendrils tighter around the doorframe, swirling in a malevolent dance. The growl faded briefly, replaced by a guttural whisper that seemed to echo her mother's voice. You know deep inside it's your fault. Clara's blood ran cold. What do you mean? She cried, her voice trembling. It's your fault I left you, pushed me away. Memories flooded her mind, moments of vulnerability and loss. She remembered their last argument, words spoken in anger that lingered like smoke. The gnawing pain dug deeper, coiling itself around her heart. Clara's breath hitched, the truth stung. Had she really done this? No. You're lying. She yelled, unwilling to give in to the shadow's twisted narrative. Meanwhile, her mother's light flickered, almost faltering as the darkness laughed. Just like you left her, you left me. The shadow echoed a cacophony of her self-doubt, mocking her failures, reinventing them into nightmares. A floodgate of sorrow broke within Clara, and she felt her knees buckle. Tears streamed down her cheeks, each drop a moment tainted by regret. But there was a part of her that burned with remembrance. She wasn't defined by those mistakes alone. Her heart whispered of love, of healing. With renewed strength, she lifted the porcelain statue overhead once more, the light catching its delicate features. No. I am not doing this again. My mother loved me. The dark figure recoiled, twisting backward as if slapped. You cannot escape yourself. Watch me. She stepped forward, summoning every ounce of courage from the depth of her being. In the name of love, I refuse to accept this darkness. The kitchen erupted in chaos. Glass shattered, the wind shrieked, and the ground trembled beneath her feet. Clara felt a surge of energy pouring into her, the warmth of the saint embracing her like a protective shroud. But the shadow wailed, a spine-chilling sound that slashed through her spirit. You cannot outrun your past, Clara. The room shuddered violently, and in that moment, Clara faltered, just slightly. The light flickered. Her mother's figure seemed to sway. Not again. She screamed, pushing herself toward the light, toward the hope burning at the center. The storm raged around her, her mind battling between moving forward and being consumed by the weight of history, and then everything went black, time seemed to stretch indefinitely. Clara stood in a void, disoriented, her voice echoing back at her. Mom. Just as her hope began to fray, a whisper reached out to her, soft yet insistent, like the gentle brush of a feather against her skin. Fight, Clara, you are not alone. But who was whispering? Where had they gone? Just when she began to find solid ground again, a deafening roar erupted in the distance, promising chaos and terror. Would she have the strength to face the truth? In that moment, clarity struck. Was the real battle within the dark, or in herself? And then, from the depths of that blackness, she sensed it. The shadow was coming. Back, angrier than before. You will regret not succumbing to me. Clara swallowed hard, recognizing the edge closing in around her. The fear pulsed, a drumbeat of terror, but one question loomed larger: could she confront the darkness without losing herself completely? Clara jolted awake, the blackness giving way to a fog-drenched afternoon. She lay sprawled on the kitchen floor amid broken glass, the porcelain saint still cradled in her hand. Panic squeezed her heart, stinging her senses as she took in her surroundings. The room was transformed. The once warm colors were replaced by a churning gray. Shadows flickered in the corners, slithering across surfaces like whispers of lost souls seeking refuge. Mom. She called, her voice trembling. Silence, then, a sound, soft yet heavy, the creak of the old wooden door leading into the hallway. Her pulse raced. Clara pushed herself up, her body shaking. She rubbed her eyes, half expecting the darkness to leap back into existence. But instead, the home felt eerily still. The figure of her mother flickered at the threshold, appearing solid yet ephemeral. Clara, she whispered, voice weaving through shadow and memory, you must find the truth. Clara's heart sank. What truth? You abandoned me. The accusation felt raw, ripping through the thickened air. I had to leave for you, her mother said, stepping closer. You must understand. The entity feeds on your doubts. Only by confronting your pain will you break its grip. Confront my pain. Clara's voice was laced with confusion. How can I trust you when you vanished without a trace? The room shifted, and Clara felt the walls closing in, pressing on her thoughts, just like the dark entity had before. Struggling to steady her breath, she glanced around. Shadows morphed like a living thing, growing bolder, creeping closer with every passing second. Listen to me. Her mother urged, desperation twining around the words. You need to face what you fear most. A deep growl rumbled through the floor as the light flickered ominously. Clara felt dread scratching at her chest and gnawing horror that grew in the pit of her stomach. Her memories began flashing before her eyes. Images of her mother's smile, their last arguments, and the crushing silence after her absence. What if I can never forgive myself? She shouted, defiance taking shape from despair. What if I'm just as bad as the darkness? I hurt you too. Her mother's face twisted in pain, the flickering light struggling against the encroaching shadows. This isn't about blame, Clara, it's about redemption. You are stronger than you realize. The dark maw of the hallway hungrily lunged toward her, the collective shadows forming a monstrous shape. Clara's heart raced as terror clashed with an emerging strength. You don't scare me. I won back down. With fierce determination, she clenched the porcelain statue tighter, trading fear for resolve. I will face this. I will confront my past. The shadows howled, slashing against her, but a warmth surged through Clara, a glow from the saint that began to push back the darkness. It struggled, the noise became deafening, each growl splintering the air around her. You think this light can protect you? It rasped. Your memories are a festering wound. I'm done hiding. Clara shouted back. With every ounce of will, she stepped forward, the light of the saint illuminating her path. For a heartbeat, everything turned white, a blinding brilliance that swallowed the shadows, spiraling them into the ether. Clara felt weightless, as if floating in a sea of light, the murmurs of her mother echoing gently. "You are not your pain, love will guide you." But as the light began to fade, the shadows surged back, more sinister than ever, wrapping around her like chains. "Your heart betrays you," they hissed. "You think you can escape? We will take everything. Every ounce of joy, every flicker of hope." Just when Clara thought she could breathe, the kitchen exploded back into chaos. But now, it was not just her mother's figure that flickered in the doorway, it was the glimmer of a face she barely recognized. A girl with hollow eyes, pleading, begging. "Help me, Clara!" In that moment, everything unraveled. What part of the darkness was real, and what was buried in her own heart? Clara's breath caught, the new weight of dread crashing down. For there, in the twisted warmth of the kitchen, was the embodiment of her deepest failure. "Please," the girl beckoned, "don't let it win." The weight of despair buried itself deep as the shadows leaped forth. Could Clara save herself in time, or would she be consumed alongside the memories she feared to face? Clara's heart pounded, each frantic thump echoing in the chaos swirling around her. The girl's desperate eyes pierced through the darkness, and with every breath Clara took, she felt the weight of the shadows pressing in closer. They spun around her, whispering haunting secrets that brushed against her skin like icy fingers. Why do you want me?" Clara gasped, trying to focus on the girl's face instead of the encroaching dread. "Because you know me," the girl replied, her voice a trembling whisper, trembling like a leaf in the wind. "You understand. You did this, to both of us." "No." Clara shook her head, an involuntary sob escaping. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I tried to forget." "Trying to forget only feeds it," the girl said, her hollow eyes filled with sorrow, as if their shared pain bound them in a horrific embrace. "You have to remember, or you'll lose yourself." Memories crashed over Clara like a wave, each one a jagged shard of glass cutting deeper into her heart. The laughter, the arguments, the silence, all swirling into a fractal of guilt and regret. "Stop!" she cried, clutching her head as shouts from her past filled the air. "You're right. I can't run anymore." The shadows twisted, pulsing with maddened glee at her admission. "Acknowledge her. Drown in her guilt." They hissed, their voices weaving together like venomous strands of a spider's web. "Face what you've ignored," the girl pleaded, stepping closer. "That thing thrives on your despair. You think your pain is all you have. It's a lie." Clara's breathing grew shallow, panic clawing at her. The light from the saint flickered, yet the shadows encircled her, licking at her fears. I can't handle it. Look at me." The girl's voice broke through the clamor of doubt, striking a chord deep within Clara's heart. "You're stronger than this darkness. You have to believe." With a deep inhale, Clara closed her eyes, grounding herself in the memory of her mother's voice. It surged through her like fire. "Love will guide you." Clara spoke the words aloud, her voice trembling but gaining strength. "I'm more than my failures. I am not defined by my fears." The shadows recoiled as if struck, their dark forms writhing. Clara opened her eyes and faced the girl. You are part of me. And I have to forgive you." The girl's blue-tinged form shimmered with a flicker of hope. "Yes. We stand together. Fight." Clara felt a rush of warmth, spreading from the porcelain saint in her grip. Light poured through her golden, vibrant, pushing back the shadows inch by inch, illuminating the darkness seeping into her soul. It felt so freeing, so terrifying. "No." The shadows shrieked, their howls growing frantic. "You cannot escape." "I can." Clara shouted, heart racing, the light growing fiercer. "I will not surrender." As she stepped forward, embodiments of sorrow began to unravel before her, their grotesque forms collapsing into nothingness. There was a sickening roar, a cacophony of rage and disbelief, but Clara pressed on, the warmth flooding every inch of her body. "Let me embrace this truth," Clara cried out, raising the saint high, its power strumming through her veins. "Let me heal." The shadows disintegrated, their cries becoming whispers, then mere echoes of despair as they were swept away. The clashing forms of the girl and Clara began to blend, becoming one a shimmering silhouette of resilience. But just when Clara thought she had beaten them back, the walls began to crack with a dreadful echo. From the fissures, tendrils of darkness emerged, more oppressive than before. "Foolish girl," they snarled, the voice thick with malice. "You think you can escape so easily?" Clara felt the semblance of victory slip. The shadows began reforming, taking shapes that were too familiar. The kitchen warped, its light dimming as the threat loomed larger. "Don't let it take you," the girl shouted. As the abyss reformed, Clara's stomach twisted in fear. The entity was not done with her yet. Not even close. What if her bravery was simply a mask for deeper fears yet to be faced? As Clara braced for the surge of darkness, the flickering light glimmered one last time, hinting that hope was not yet lost. Could she face what lay beyond the shadows, or was she trapped in a battle too vast to win? Clara stood rooted in a spot, the echoes of the shadows shifting and writhing like 1,000 snakes ready to bite. The voices transformed into a cacophony of mockery, their urgency rising, taunting her weakness. "You think light can protect you? This is your past. You are chained to it. Shut up." Clara screamed, clenching her fists, feeling a swell of anger bubbling inside her. "You don't own me." With each shout, the room trembled. The porcelain saint flickered violently in her grip, its power responding to her fury. She needed to act, to move. Standing still only drew the shadows closer. Each second, they grew more tangible, more threatening, ready to drag her down into the depths of despair once again. "Clara, we have to move." The girl's voice cut through the madness, a lifeline in the storm. "We can't let them hold us here. Remember who you are." "Who I am." Clara hesitated, the truth wavering behind her resolve like a silhouette she couldn't quite grasp. But with a deep breath, she let the memories wash over her, not suffocating but riding the waves of certainty. "I am not alone anymore. I will not be afraid." The shadows lunged, grotesque faces forming from the darkness, each one a tortured version of her own guilt. She could see her failures, her fears, manifesting in the distorted figures that clawed at her mind. They all demanded she succumb, slip back into the pit of sorrow. But Clara stood firm, fiery determination replacing her tremors. "Stay strong," she cried, her voice unwavering. "I choose to fight, I choose to love." As if in response, the light from the porcelain saint erupted, wrapping Clara in a cocoon of warmth and strength. The shadows, horrified, pulled back, screeching in rage. They could sense that Clara was no longer their prisoner. "Shift with me," Clara shouted to the girl, whose presence still flickered beside her. Together, they moved, uniting their energy, forming a shield of light. The shadows lashed out from all sides, their claws grazing her skin, a chill creeping through her, but Clara fought against the encroaching ice. The light pulsed, releasing shockwaves of radiant energy that pushed the figures back, unraveling them like fabric torn apart by restless hands. Clara felt every ounce of raw emotion, the heartbreak, the regret cluster within her, igniting her resolve. "I refuse to be defined by you," she yelled, and with all her might, she hurled the burst of light toward the darkened corners of the room. The shadows recoiled, shrieking as they were consumed by the vibrant glow. Fissures in the walls widened, revealing glimpses of bright skies and fields of flowers behind the darkness, worlds beyond her fear. "It's beautiful. We can break free," the girl exclaimed, her voice brightening, but even as Clara thought they had a chance, tremors rumbled through the ground. An enormous shadow loomed, darker than the rest. A figure emerged, twisted, lurking, pulsating with dread. As it stepped forward, the air thickened, turning stagnant, suffocating. "You think this is the end?" The grotesque form growled, its voice like thunder. "Your pain is endless, and I will always be here." Clara's heart plunged. This was not just a shadow, it was the embodiment of her deepest fears, her most haunting memories. "No more!" Clara shouted, but her voice trembled now, uncertainty creeping in like a fog. I am not ready." As the entity advanced, darkness spilled over the walls, closing in tight around her. The flickering light dimmed, struggling against the overwhelming force pressing down on Clara. With panic swelling in her chest, she clutched the saint, desperately searching for strength. "Clara." The girl's voice now sounded softer, almost a whisper. "Remember, love will guide you." But was that enough? Clara's vision blurred, shadows creeping closer, and doubts loomed large. Had she truly begun to conquer her fears, or was she simply staring into the heart of despair? Would the light hold strong against the darkness threatening to swallow her whole once more? As the darkness surged forward, Clara felt the last embers of hope flicker. The final moment of choice lay before her. Would she rise to embrace her past or let it engulf her again? Clara held her breath, the maw of darkness inches from her face. She could feel the chilling whisper of despair brushing against her skin. The towering figure, a grotesque amalgamation of her deepest fears, loomed larger than life, each shuddering breath a reminder of everything she feared she could never escape. "Clara!" The girl beside her urged, voice shimmering through the weight of dread. "You have the power, don't let it win." The shadows sneered, their twisted faces contorting in taunting laughter. "You think you can defeat me?" They hissed, the sound sharp as glass. "You are defined by your failures. They will always haunt you." "No!" Clara shouted, shaking her head fiercely, determination surging within her. "I am more than my past. I will not let you take me again." Recalling her mother's whispered teachings, Clara clutched the porcelain saint tightly. Its surface grew warm under her palm, pulsing with potential. "In the name of my family, in the name of love, I cast you out." Each syllable thundered through her chest, vibrating with energy. The shadow surged forward, tendrils reaching out, determined to ensnare her in its grasp. But Clara didn't falter. She stood her ground, feeling the support of the girl beside her knitting their hearts together in a bright tapestry of resilience. "Fight with me. We are strong. We are united." With a deafening roar, she launched the light forward, a fierce burst of radiance erupting from her heart like the dawn breaking after a long night. The air crackled with energy, enveloping her in warmth as she felt her fears colliding with the blinding light. As the shadows shrieked, the figures began to dissolve, melting away like mist in the early morning sun. Clara could see the sky beyond bright azure, sunlight flooding her senses with hope. "Feel the love," she called, every ounce of her spirit aligning in unison. The kitchen shifted and breathed alongside her, walls quaking with the release of pent-up shadows, but the largest figure, deeper and darker than before, clawed its way back, howling with anger. "I will always be a part of you." It screeched, but Clara felt her heart steadied, a new wave of belief coursing through her. "No," she said, a resolute echo. "You are part of my past, but you do not own me." She summoned every loving memory, her mother's embrace, the stories told in candlelit rooms, the laughter shared over family dinners, and poured them into the radiant beam she had formed. With a single push, a wave of light surged forward, colliding with the darkness, illuminating the room in a burst of color. The tendrils squirmed and writhed, their cries fading into silence as the oppressive weight began to lift, cracks spreading wider across the walls, revealing blossoming fields of flowers behind the shadows. "Its power lies in fear. And I choose not to fear anymore," Clara shouted, her voice filling the air with newfound confidence. As the dark figure let out one final howl, each note reverberating with promises of despair, its form began to splinter away into nothingness, evaporating into fleeting whispers. The kitchen filled with golden light, wrapping around Clara and the girl, erasing every shadow that had once haunted her. For a moment, Clara felt invincible. The girl smiled, her form shimmering, becoming brighter with each passing second. "You did it, Clara. You chose love. You set us free." Clara gasped, feeling tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you, for reminding me." The girl nodded, illuminating the space until the shadows receded entirely. Then, in a gentle swirl of light, she faded into the air, leaving Clara standing alone in the transformed kitchen. The sun streamed through the windows, flooding the room with warmth. Clara looked around, feeling a sense of peace settle over her like a soft blanket. The remnants of her fear lay scattered, the darkness no longer had power over her. With new resolve, she stepped outside and breathed deep, reviving the spirit of her childhood. She drew in the sweet scent of blooming flowers, feeling the warmth on her skin while the blue sky stretched above. "I am free," she whispered, her heart swelling. As the shadows continued to recede behind her, Clara felt the grit of her past wash away, replaced by an unwavering belief in herself. She wouldn't erase her memories, instead, she would honor them, carrying their lessons forward. With a determined heart, Clara walked toward the future, leaving behind a faint echo of darkness, knowing that love will always be her guiding light. For those of you who've followed Clara's journey, remember this: you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on the next incredible stories we have coming your way. Smash that like button now, and help feed the algorithm so more people can share in these tales of triumph. Flood the comment section below with your thoughts about Clara's journey and share your reactions and theories about the ending. And most importantly, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes a tremendous difference. Thank you.